Stalemate. Talks set to resume today between White House officials and Democratic lawmakers as they work toward a new round of COVID-19 stimulus. The deadlock now focused on those enhanced unemployment benefits, which expired last week. Joining us now, Florida Congressman, member of the House Judiciary and Oversight and Reform Committees, Greg Steube. Congressman, great to see you. Where are we on this?
Good to see you. Well, I think the sides are still very far apart. I think you're going to see Mitch McConnell's drawn a line in the sand as it relates to liability protection. And Democrats and Nancy Pelosi want to extend this $600 a week. I've talked to business leaders and business owners in my district, and that additional $600 a week is keeping people out of the workforce because they're making more money on unemployment than they would working. So they can't even fill the billets of their employees that they need to fill for their businesses in manufacturing, in the restaurant industry, and in the service industry if that's going to remain in place. So I think Republicans are going to be very hesitant to include that in the overall package.
But you see cases spiking even in your home state and businesses that cannot reopen. Not everybody collecting that extra $600 per week is staying at home because of that pay, because of the amount of money. They can't go back to work. So you're still taking that away from potentially millions of Americans. Do you think that benefits you?
I think as long as they get an unemployment compensation benefit, it depends, every circumstance is going to be different. But I'm telling you, when I talk to business leaders in my community, that's inhibiting them from getting employees back. They talk to people that were their former employees, and their former employees are saying, I'm not going to come back to work because I'm making more money on unemployment. So the people that I've talked to, it's definitely a factor in inhibiting businesses from getting people back to work.
They can report those individuals to basically to the unemployment offices. If people refuse to come back to work, the businesses can report them.
Well, every state works different. We just allocate the money at the federal level, and then the state deals with how they do that program. So if that's something that we can do here in Florida, then I certainly can let our business leaders know that.
I want to get Governor Huckabee in here. Governor, what should the Republicans do here? Because, again, they're negotiating with Nancy Pelosi. They do have the upper hand in the sense that the Democrats in the House passed something in May, $3.5 trillion, granted much bigger than what the Republicans want to do, but they at least acted preemptively rather than waiting until the last minute.
Let's keep in mind that the first stimulus package was done very quickly, and there wasn't a lot of time to think about it. This one has to be done with a lot more really strategic focus. And I agree with the congressman. You can't pay people more money to not work than they get working. That's something that Congress and the states have to work out so that you are making sure that people who can't work, they get the money. They need the money. They ought to have the money. But people who can get back into the economy should, because it's very simple. What behavior you reward, you get more of it. Behavior that you consequence, you get less of it. You want people to go back to work. That's the ultimate stimulus to the economy. That has to be the focus.
I want to move on to Microsoft confirming that it is in talks to buy TikTok's U.S. operations. The tech giant is hoping to have the deal done by September 15th. Congressman Steube, your thoughts on this?
Well, we know for a fact that they're sharing information with the Chinese Communist Party. That is very troubling to me. It's also troubling to the president, which is why the president has talked about banning it. I think if the president and Microsoft can work out some type of agreement, then I would be comfortable with that. But if the president and Microsoft can't work out an agreement, I support the president in banning TikTok in the United States if they're sharing all of this data and all of this information and all this user information with the Chinese Communist Party.
Just to be clear, TikTok, and I know the way the law works in China, that under Chinese law, companies operating there must comply with any government request for data. But TikTok has said repeatedly that it would never hand over such data. So just to be clear on what's been said about that. But are you comfortable with a giant U.S. corporation becoming that much bigger and literally buying up one of the only legitimate competitors to part of, say, Facebook's business?
Well, that's one of the things that we talked about in the last hearing, the tech hearing last week. Those are the type of things that need to be discussed as these bigger companies gobble up these smaller companies. But a lot of these smaller companies, that's what they try to do, is get big enough so that they get bought off, get a big payout, and they can move on. And then these companies can continue those products. So that's certainly something that we need to look at. But I'm more concerned about the safety and the security of the American people, having served in the military. So if there's a national security issue with TikTok sharing that information with the Chinese Communist Party, then I'll lean on the side of the president with this one.
Congressman Steube, great to see you. Congressman